With Earth almost completely conquered, the supreme leaders of the evil Kisaragi Corporation send combat Agent 6 to another planet to determine if they can establish a base there and continue conquering a new world. Otherwise, they warn that 6 will be fired once they have finished their conquest of Earth. 6 reluctantly accepts the job, being paired with a combat droid in the form of a small girl named Alice. The two are then transported to a world with an Earth-like atmosphere, where 6 wants to set up a teleporter immediately and return home, but Alice warns that he'll need lots more evil points to establish a base before he can set up anything. After being attacked by monsters, the two manage to work their way into the Kingdom of Grace under the commander of the Royal Guard, Snow. As they walk through the kingdom, 6 and Alice notice that there seems to be familiar technology around, such as a rusted battle tank. Snow introduces them to a large artifact that can call down rain. Alice recognizes the device and begins fixing it. However, when the device asks for a new password, 6 enters Dick Festival, hoping to get evil points from watching the royal family get embarrassed from saying the phrase in public. Princess Tilly's catches them all in the act, and decides to use the incident to make 6 and Alice work as knights for the kingdom under her command, with Snow demoted to 6's executive officer after claiming she would take responsibility for their actions. With most able-bodied soldiers fighting the demons on the front lines, Alice decides to add 2 strange young women to 6's group, a chimera named Rose and a wheelchair-bound archpriest of Xenareth named Grim. The next day, 6's group watch the Grace Army about to do battle with the demon army camp. But 6 decides to attack their supply lines instead, thinking it will be easier, while Snow argues there's barely any glory in doing so. Shortly after routing the orcs from the supply lines, 6 finds himself facing off against one of the Demon Lord's Elite Four, Hein of the Flame. With the rest of his party unable or unwilling to help out, 6 tries to avoid being scorched by Hein. Suddenly, another member of the Elite Four, Gandalkin of the Earth, lands and immediately crushes Grim's head with his giant club. 6's group fights with Gandalkin until the Demon Lord orders him to retreat. 6 is distraught at Grim's death, until Snow mentions that Grim can be resurrected at a nearby church. After waiting for her revival, 6 drives Grim through the kingdom's capital on a new wheelchair. When the two are stopped by a female guard, Grim tries to demonstrate her curse powers on her, but is only partially successful. After boasting of his recent success, 6 works with Alice to induct Rose into Kisaragi by trying to make her eat a grasshopper, though she detests bugs. 6 barely has time to rest before he's called in to resolve another crisis. The Chosen One, Tilly's brother, has been wounded by 2 powerful demons while assaulting Duster Tower, a mostly hollow tower with a long, spiral staircase that contains a treasure crucial to defeating the Demon Lord. After his initial plan is shot down and the kingdom's forces decide to try a frontal assault on the tower, 6 and his unit simply wait for sunset before using a pneumatic gun to create handholds for them to climb up the side of the tower. After reaching the top, 6 kicks one of the demons off the ledge, while knocking the second unconscious by throwing several rocks at him. When the first one returns up the stairs, 6 bargains with the second demon's life in exchange for the tower and its treasure, gaining evil points. Despite their dishonorable actions, 6 and Alice are each awarded a large sack of gold back at the castle for their efforts. The kingdom's chief strategist advises the general to have 6's unit perform a frontal assault on a unit of the demon army led by Hein, though 6 suspects the strategist is just trying to get rid of him after insulting him so hard that he cried. Shortly after arriving at the battlefield, the kingdom's forces notice a magical rock golem stomping towards them, and 6's unit decide to fight everyone else except for the golem, while Alice tries to acquire C4 from Kisaragi, leaving 6 himself as the golem's opponent. 6 ends up releasing his suit's limiters just in time for the C4 to arrive, and destroys the golem, but is left defenseless for 3 minutes when Hein herself tries to finish off 6. Finally, Grim wakes up and hits Hein with a paralyzing curse. Just as Hein breaks free of the curse, Snow attacks her, cutting away a magic stone Hein used to amplify her powers. 6 takes advantage of the act by humiliating Hein in front of both surviving armies and gains several evil points. Later that night, the strategist tries to bribe Snow into proving that 6 is a foreign spy. Snow plans to keep the money inside with 6 but overhears him talking with Alice about being a spy for Kisaragi. Snow gets elevated back to her old position in the Royal Guard along with Rose and Grim after 6 and Alice leave the kingdom. After settling into their new home, 6 and Alice begin setting up a teleporter, but Alice warns it will take at least a month to stabilize the connection between the two worlds, and the Demon Lord's army will attack before then. 6 decides to get some evil points by flashing random women in the kingdom, but his actions earn him infamy as everyone in the castle calls him Zipperman. 6 uses his new evil points to buy landmines and bury them on routes leading to the castle. However, when they go back to town, they hear that the Chosen One disappeared with one of the Elite Four he was fighting. After fearing that they accidentally ruined the prophecy, 6 and Alice plan to escape to another country when Tilly's herself appears and begs them to stay behind for the final battle with the Demon Lord's army. The next day, 6 and Alice stay by Tilly's side while the Demon Lord's army marches on the kingdom, led by Hein and Gandalkin. However, multiple golems and Hein herself are delayed by the landmines. Despite the delay, the Demon Lord's army invades the Grace capital with several soldiers and golems as Hein demands to face Six. Rose and Grimm try to buy time with their powers while Snow rushes in to meet with Six and Alice, who are trying to escape with Tilly's. After Snow's heartfelt plea, Six decides to stay and fight off the attackers, but realizes he doesn't have enough evil points, leading him to pull down Snow's panties in front of himself, Tilly's, and Alice. He then uses the collected points to buy a large anti-material rifle, using it to destroy the golems. As Hein, Gandalkand, and a small group of flyers close the distance, Six unleashes his suit's power, combined with a summoned chainsaw blade, to tear through every attacker in the room except for a frightened Hein, to whom he offers a 1-month truce. As Hein and the remnants of the Demon Lord's army leave, Six and Alice decide to stay in this world a little longer. Kisaragi sends a mutant named Tiger Man to help Six while busy with their conquest of Earth. After Six breaks Snow's sword during a duel, Tiger Man gives her his own sword. Later, Alice wants to learn more about the fauna of this world, so she heads to a nearby forest with Six and Snow to catalog different kinds of animals. While running away from predators, Six encounters a blue walking crustacean called a mokmok and finds a kinship with it, but Snow cuts it in half and shares the meat with the others at the tavern. At dinner, Alice voices skepticism about the magical powers she's seen on this mission, thinking that they are the result of psychic manipulation, deception, or other scientific explanations. Offended, Grimm summons a demon in front of Six and Alice that night to prove magic is real, but Alice remains skeptical after the demon refuses to fulfill her incredible wishes before disappearing. Tilly's tries to activate the rain machine with Six's new password but finds that she can't activate it without an audience, and the King of Grace has mysteriously disappeared. Unwilling to conduct the ceremony, Tilly's decides to send Six and his unit to the nearby kingdom of Taurus to negotiate for magical water stones. Six summons a buggy from Earth and speeds off to Taurus with the rest of his party, arriving at the castle that night. Negotiations are threatened when Snow tries unsuccessfully to woo Angel, Grimm tries to curse various partygoers, and Rose eats all the food she can. Meanwhile, Alice and Six stumble onto a mysterious capsule in a separate room, and run into Russell of the Water, one of the Demon Army's Elite Four, along with Hein. After groping Hein for several minutes, Six discovers that Taurus has secretly provided supplies to the Demon Army. However, when confronting Angel, he does not deny it. Hein and Snow then fight for Angel's favor, and Six gets so jealous of Angel he plays an obscene prank on him. The next day, the Kingdom of Taurus declares war on Grace and institutes economic sanctions unless Grace hands over Six and Snow. Tilly's demotes Snow again and orders Six's unit to acquire water nuts from the Sand King's territory. Six's unit collect water nuts from some spines in the desert only to discover that they are standing on top of the Sand King himself. Alice manages to escape the Sand King by setting the buggy to self-destruct as the party bails from the vehicle, but now they are forced to walk across the desert. Alice uses the last of Six's evil points to summon a large tent, but the group quickly runs low on food and water, and Grimm is incapacitated after the first day. About 7 days later, Six tries to get evil points from harassing Snow, but feels guilty after she falls unconscious too. Rose becomes desperate enough to try eating Six, while Six misinterprets her words as wanting sex, until Alice clears it up. Six then gains several evil points while trying to fight off a ravenous Rose throughout the night. The next day, Six has enough evil points to buy a new buggy and enough food and drink for the party to return to Grace. Tilly's informs Six and Alice that Taurus and the Demon Army have joined forces and are planning to attack Grace, and without water Grace won't last long. Tilly's hands Alice a map to ancient ruins, and says that a couple of elite demons are searching for an ancient weapon to defeat the Sand King. Alice decides to go steal it from them. Back on Earth, the leaders of Kisaragi hold a party with their minions to celebrate their recent victory over the heroes. During the party, Lilith secretly livestreams candid video of Astaroth and Belial across the internet, in addition to Six, Alice, and Tiger Man on the other world. Lilith earns several evil points and rigs the best boss voting in her favor before the other two girls find out and punish her. Astaroth is about to answer if she's really in love with Six when other heroes attack the party, having found the location from Lilith's livestream. While Tiger Man and Grace's army defend against the coming invasion, Six's unit drives back into Taurus territory to find the secret weapon hidden in ancient ruins. As night falls, they stumble across a camp set up by Hein and Russell. Six decides to wait until the demons enter the ruins and fight through the traps themselves, then steal the weapon after they do all the work. Upon entering the ruins, Six and Alice note it looks surprisingly high-tech, while Rose finds some familiar scenery. As Russell and Hein approach the weapon, Six knocks out Russell from behind with a low blow, but uses too much force, nearly killing him. After Alice revives Russell, Six makes him activate the weapon, which turns out to be a giant mech. However, Russell activates the mech and puts himself in the pilot seat. Hein teleports away from the scene so she can't be used as a hostage, though Six grabs her bra at the last second. Six's unit tries to escape outside, but Russell chases them down in the match. Alice unlocks Six's evil points account and allows him to go into a negative balance to fight off the match. As Alice needs a lot of time to build her own secret weapon to counter the match, Six rushes outside and spends hours fighting Russell with multiple types of weapons summoned from Earth. Just as Russell finally catches Six, Alice appears in her own giant mech, the Destroyer. 3 days later, Alice tells Six that she destroyed the enemy mech as Rose and Snow captured Russell and threw him in a dungeon. Meanwhile, Tiger Man helped the Grace Army fight off the invasion force. Six and Alice threaten Russell into using his magic to provide water for the Kingdom of Grace by sixing a horny Tiger Man on him. Some time later, as Tilly's tries to work on a peace treaty between Grace and Taurus, Six and Alice test Grimm's curse that she is unable to wear shoes by putting socks on her feet. She self-destructs moments later. Meanwhile, Hines swears to avenge her fallen comrades. Back on Earth, the Chosen One and Fostress of the Wind get into an argument in a Kisaragi office before being scolded by Belial. That night, Six talks to Alice about his dream of conquering all the worlds and finally getting a harem.